What's happening, tabletop gamers? My name is LeunameGames. Welcome back to LeunameGames Unboxes. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Planet of the Apes by Richard Launius and published by IDW Games. So let's go ahead and have a look at the back here. Unimpressed with man, Colonel George Taylor volunteers to become the commander of the spaceship Liberty and explore the deep recesses of space. Taylor ponders the chaos he left behind. Is man that marvel of the universe that sent me to the stars? Do they still make war against each other? Awakening under distress, Taylor evacuates to a desolate planet. With no way home, Taylor pushes forward to find intelligent life on this strange planet. The Planet of the Apes board game has 1 to 4 players taking roles of Taylor's varying personalities. Guide Taylor to the Forbidden Zone, escape the hunt, join the escape, unveil the mysteries of the dig, but be ready for the foreshadowing of tragedy. Roll dice and collect abilities to progress the scene forward. Survive the disasters that lie ahead, and always be aware of the apes, or you might just end up in a museum. In this game of human see, human do, make sure Taylor is ready for the discovery, and he may just find the way home. So obviously this is based off of the property of Planet of the Apes, which I admit I have never seen it. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anything related to Planet of the Apes, but that doesn't mean I'm pushed off. I'm still interested. So with all that said, let's have a look and see what does Planet of the Apes have to offer us. The game comes with a very long board, so long in fact that it actually barely fits on the table, and obviously this board is meant to represent the story of Planet of the Apes that the players are going to be going through. On the board there is a time of day tracker, which are actually going to be tracking by using a little token that's a representation of the sun, and you're going to be moving that around to keep track of the time of day. There is also a track over here to represent the active scene and various encounters that you'll be going through throughout the game, as well as a track of the various scenes that will happen through the game. There is a track here that represents all the scenes that have happened in the story, or at least the majority of the scenes that have happened. And all of those are, and each of these scenes comes with a set of cards. There is a card that has a border of color around it. That's to represent the intro to the scene. And then there is a set of cards for each scene that have white borders around them. And these are to represent the various encounters that will happen to you and that you're going to have to try and deal with. And there's a whole bunch of various cards, each of which represents each scene, as well as what you'll need to do to try to get out of that scene. On the front of each of these cards is obviously the scene itself that you're going to be playing through. On the back of each card, on the back of the intro cards, there is, like I said, the intro to the scene that you're going to be playing through, a whole bunch of conditions to where the scene will end, and what you'll do when the scene ends, along with a way to set up the scene. On the back of the encounter cards, however, there is a bunch of different things. There is assets that you will have to try to complete this task, a condition that you have to roll dice for in order to complete the task, a success or failure, or based on what happens if you manage to complete it, you'll get a reward or you'll get a penalty, and then there is a bonus, and these bonuses can be a variety of different things with different things that can happen to you, whether it's for good or for ill. There is spaces on the board that represent the active scene, which is basically the scene that you are all trying to complete together, as well as active encounters that you are going to try to beat in order to complete the scene. And you're basically using this to keep track of where in the game you are at. The game comes with 4 different standees that you'll be using in the game: the ship, Taylor himself, an ape, and the Statue of Liberty. The ship is meant to keep track of what part of the scene you are in, while Taylor, the ape, and the Statue of Liberty are all meant to go on this fate track to keep track of everything here. And I will say that while these standees are nice looking, these little bases that they have like to slide out very easily. They do go in very easily, which is nice, but they like to slide out easily. So you do want to be careful when picking these up. Otherwise, they can easily slide out, and you don't want them falling over. There is a bunch of what they call skill tokens, which basically are meant to be spent in order to trigger a special action. Speaking of actions, there are 4 characters in the game. Each of these characters are actually a part of Taylor's personality: the Commander, the Defiant, the Clever, and the Clinical, or Cynical, rather. Each of these has a special ability and a special action that you can spend and these skill tokens to do, as well as a spot down here that you'll be using to keep track of wound tokens. Since there are spots for keeping track of wounds, there are wound tokens. Just a simple little blood splatter on tokens here that are really nice and thick, thankfully, so you're not going to have to worry about bending these by accident. And I actually like the idea of them being hexagons, easy to tell them apart, and they actually fit into the character slots really well, which is very nice. The game comes with a whole bunch of dice, and the dice are very good quality. The corners are nice and round, which are my favorite types. The pips are nice and grained, which means they're going to last a lot longer. The only thing I have that's not that great to say about them is that if you are colorblind, you may have some difficulty telling these apart, because they're all the same except for the fact that they're different colors. There is a deck of action cards. These are basically what you're going to use to play the game. They can be used to either try to complete encounters, or you can try to collect them to play sets of them to trigger some special actions. And I will say, the symbology on the cards is very easy to see. It's really easy to tell these apart from each other. And I can also say with confidence that the text on these cards is pretty easy to see. You may have a little bit of difficulty in telling what the dice are if you are colorblind, like I said before, because some of these cards do have the dice on the bottom, and they don't really show a difference other than the colors of the dice. There's a deck of special cards. These are special abilities that can tell you when you can play them and what they do, obviously. And I will say, the text on these is actually pretty easy to see. I don't think you should have any issues there. The text on the top up is nice and bold, which is nice. And the text on the cards here is very easy to read, so you shouldn't have any issues there. And the symbology on the bottom is also really easy to see. And if you're wondering where the special deck goes, it actually goes face down up here. There's a little spot for them up in the top left corner. And the actions go over here. There's a deck of Planet of the Apes cards. These trigger whenever the sundial reaches the sunrise spot, and basically you'll draw them and something will happen to you. It could be good, it could be bad. There are 2 events that happen to them, and they have to be resolved from top to bottom. If you're wondering where they go, they get shuffled up and they are placed here. And then lastly, there are 4 reference cards, each of which represent the different actions that you can do on your turn. There are also free actions which do not require an action in order to do them. I can tell, looking at these are very easy to read. You shouldn't have any issue seeing what these are. And it's also a nice little summary of how to have each set of the game be played here. So that is everything you will get if you obtain Planet of the Apes. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. If you want to learn how to play Planet of the Apes, or if you want to learn my thoughts on it, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more tutorials, reviews, and unboxings. Thank you all as always so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.